I need a new backdrop for the photography I'll be doing, showing off epic scale miniatures that I've painted, and also to show these buildings I'm going to be making for the game system, epic scale buildings, and as such I need something to go behind that. Looking for some examples in the Space Marine rulebook, kind of get an idea for some of the backdrops. Well, not so much backdrops, but the artwork shown in the background of those pieces. You can sometimes make out buildings, and in this case what appear to be quite conventional blocky shapes, which I'm hoping are going to tie in with the buildings I have planned. Similarly, here in the background again, blocky shapes, things that you might recognise from a city skyline. I think that's the look I'm going to go for. I need something that can just act as a backdrop though. It's not a study of buildings and how they should look. It's more just going to be a kind of faded, low contrast backdrop. Perhaps not like this, the kind of fortress look is not what I'm going to go for. I want more of the city look where these battles might be happening. Essentially tying in with the sorts of buildings that you should get with the old Space Marine game. These kind of somewhat conventional, recognisable building shapes. Often the artwork, the old 40k artwork, depicts these quite elaborate fortress-like Gothic constructions. And this is the Warhammer 40k rulebook from 2nd edition. And this is the War Gear book. Yeah, it's a classic one there. Again, this very high Gothic, fantasy Gothic, elaborate stone carvings perhaps, I'm not really sure. And that's a very particular look, especially at the time when depicting cities and planets of the 40k universe. But I'm just going to use my oil paints for this. I've got a bit of packaging, this piece of chipboard, a couple of mil thick kind of stuff. Came as packaging. It's going to act as a nice flat board to use the paints on. And as you've seen before with paintings I've done, I'm just going to get stuck in and put some paint directly onto the board, straight from the tube. And some orange there. This is some raw sienna. Start with a smaller amount, and then some Naples yellow, if I can get any to come out. I've also got some artist's painting medium to help move the paint around. The colour of this board is going to be helpful also. A kind of warm light brown colour is absolutely fine if some of that's still showing. One thing I do need to do is remember to keep the detail, if there's buildings or things, in the horizon line nice and low to the bottom of the board, just so the perspective works better, and to keep everything quite small. So I'm looking to create a nice sci-fi sky and landscape, but it needs to be simple, not take over the image too much, just act as a backdrop, so it doesn't have to be too detailed anywhere. The backdrop's intended to have this red planet, wasteland, ash wastes look to it. That's my main aesthetic for the work I do. So it can be useful to get a nice blend of colours as a starting point, knowing that I want to blend down into that kind of red-orange ground to tie in with how I do basing and things like that. Maybe even some green up in the sky. A little bit of that. These kind of science fiction backdrops where you can really get away with any colour scheme you want to do. And a bit more of the Naples yellow to try and blend that together a bit. It's nice to use these larger boards to work on, just so you've got a bit of room for your photography or your videos, so everything's not all cramped in too close. And I don't need to overblend it. Nice to have some streaks here and there, a bit of the texture coming through from the board below. I think I'll try and get the effect of some clouds in also. Maybe do that on top. But I think the green's just going to give it that slightly toxic and nasty atmosphere that these 40k planets seem to have. And I've not done one like this before anyway, so it's sometimes worth trying some different colours. And it's the nice thing with working with oil paints, being that you can still come back in and blend things and change the overall look as you go. Now, in terms of doing the buildings, I'm not going to try and do anything too clever with perspective on the actual buildings, because it will then make it difficult to match in with the miniatures placed in front of it. So I think they're going to be more of a kind of silhouette look to it. Like I said, down low across the bottom of the board. The colour of these need to be pushed back in the space. We don't want them too strong. We don't want them to stand out too much. We want them to feel like they're off in the distance, and so there's a lot of atmosphere between the buildings and the viewer. So I'm going to use colours, probably mainly this Naples yellow tone here, maybe a bit of grey mix in there, and then just make some general shapes and see how they come out. Probably need a little bit of orange in there as well. And the basic idea is anything that you want to depict as being closer, use a stronger, more saturated colour, and it'll bring it further out towards you than the other things. What I'm trying to do is keep things reasonably square if I can. Really, I'm just trying to make a suggestion that there's shapes there on the horizon. It's nothing more than that. You're not going to be able to make anything out. The focus of the image is always going to be the miniatures in front of this. I do want things to kind of look straight and vertical if possible. And I am intending this to be quite a built up city type environment where these epic forces, the Titans, are fighting over. Then what I think I'll do is come in with a much smaller brush now, more of a detail brush, and maybe just add in a few little points here and there. Just adding little hints at detail here and there. Don't want to get too bogged down in doing that. It's just meant to, infer that these are buildings. And it's meant to be the sort of thing that you can place models of actual buildings in front of this with your Titans and epic scale minis. And this just gives you this kind of backdrop that's meant to suggest some sort of built-up city. And I'm not really basing this on anything at all, it's just random. Need to get some more sci-fi elements into this. Nothing says sci-fi more than huge satellite dishes. Maybe just as a bit of a nod to the 40k look. Let's add in something slightly cathedral-like. Just outlining in some shapes. And again, I won't get too specific with painting it in. It kind of needs to be vague. But it just provides a kind of, like I said, like a nod towards that 40k look. Just at the base of the image, use a little bit of spirits and smooth away that bottom edge a bit. Just going to give me the haze on the horizon. And then just to show the miniatures finished off in the previous video in front of this backdrop I've just painted, just gives you something nicer to photograph or film your miniatures in front of. Put them in situ, give them some context, help with the scale of things, and hopefully create that picture of a sci-fi dystopian wasteland, and in this particular case one that's just on the edges of some built up futuristic city. And what's missing from this setup is some model buildings just to stand alongside these sorts of Titans or other epic scale minis, and that's what I'm going to work on in the next video going up. So hopefully the video has been of some interest. But in any case, thanks very much for watching.